Hi, today on our Business Spotlight interview, we've got Ed Giansante of Dublin, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his business and what he's been doing through the pandemic and moving on out from that. So over to you, Ed. Maybe you can tell us in your own words, what you do and for how long you've been doing it.
Yeah, sure. Kevin, thank you so much for the time and the opportunity. I think it's great to be talking to fellow entrepreneurs. It's been a challenging times for us. Like we've probably been through a lot of things in the last 2 years or more. But maybe let me give you some context on what I do, what's Dublin, and maybe who do we serve. So I started Dublin at 14 years ago, believe it or not.
Wow.
And it wasn't a business when I started because it was essentially me personally trying to solve a problem for myself. And what was that problem was I'm originally from Brazil. I was moving abroad 14 years ago. You definitely remember, I remember we didn't have Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or anything like that. So every information that we had about Ireland back in Brazil was very rough. It was in English. It was from the government side. It was very boring to read, very difficult to read. And I couldn't really get a gist or understanding of what was going on. And I was like, maybe as I find out about what was going on about Ireland, because that was my plan to move abroad, I'm maybe going to write it down and then write it down in a blog. And then that's me trying to solve a problem that's initially for me, but to help maybe fellow people, fellow Brazilians planning to move abroad, to really have that information. And that's how eDublin became a company. It wasn't a company initially, it was more like a source of information for people to help fellow Brazilians. And then years passed by, fast forward to 2022, we're the largest community for Brazilian expats. We have reached over 50 million Brazilians with our content. We have combined maybe 1.5 million social media followers. So it's actually growing fast and it's growing, healthy, like in a really good way. And what do we do for them? We essentially the same thing that I did when I started is providing information, empowering them, and ensuring that they have a great life when they move abroad. I know it's difficult. It's not easy to move to a different country, different language, different culture. We want to make sure that they feel connected, that they feel empowered, that they have the information they need. And this is free of charge. And then you may be asking, so how do you make money then? So maybe you think about, I'll give you an example, RTE. If you want to read the news, it's free to read, but then you have advertisers. So we work on the very similar model of having advertisers promote their brands, to our community. And we also started to really offer our own products. And I'm happy to talk about this a little bit later, but this is a little bit about me, what I do in Dublin.
Fantastic. Okay. And so it's fairly broadly spread, but who would you say is your best customer or customer group even?
Yeah, sure. So mostly Brazilians who are planning to move abroad. Even people who are not still here, but still in that phase of, discovering, planning, making sure that they know what they need to do, understanding like visas and so on. So it's really the Brazilians planning to move abroad.
Okay. Very good. And you're saying people advertising, would the advertisers be from Brazil or would they be from elsewhere or all of the above?
That's a great question. When we started, we didn't know much about who should be our audience, our consumers, like people who pay for our product. And we're initially thinking about Brazil agencies who offer, online agency services like, travel agencies or the courses for people who are moving abroad. And then we realized that the market is actually much bigger than this, because think about this yourself. When you're going to travel, you need a lot of things. You need like luggage, you need security, you need maybe an insurance plan. Maybe you need to translate documents. Maybe you need to find a place to stay, accommodation. You need to find a school or university if you're going to study. You need to find a job if you're going to work. There's a lot around the ecosystem of moving abroad. And then we're like, okay, it's actually bigger than just agencies offering online courses. And our current clients, we have airlines, we have accommodation places, we have universities, actually Trinity College, for example, UCD, TCU, they're all clients of ours. KLM, we've worked with Aer Lingus in the past. So everyone who touches the community of people who are moving to a different country will somehow be an interest for us, and they'll have an interest in the audience that we work with. So these are the type of clients we have work.
Fantastic. That's great. And were there any business changes you had considered that COVID-19 made a necessity for your business?
Yeah, I'll tell you like maybe funny today, but not so funny at the time story of what happened to us in the COVID. Every year we do like an annual summit in Brazil, and we actually have this with around 1,000 people in person. It's a huge event that we do in São Paulo, and we had it planned for March 2021. So as you can imagine, that was right when the COVID was, initially, let's say, was the kickoff of COVID. The officially was, everything was closed down, lockdown was starting, and we had to cancel the event the day before. It was meant to be on a Saturday. We had to cancel on a Friday. And a lot of people have traveled from abroad. Actually, people from Ireland have traveled to be there as well. And what happened was no one understood first. This was like a big pandemic. They were like, what's going on? Why are you canceling the event? I want my money back. And actually, we started to get a lot of pushback from clients, from people who were supposed to be at the event. And we had to cancel everything. We had to pay fines to the places, the venues. We actually made a huge loss. We're like in the 6-digit loss at that point in time. And what happens next is, if there's no one traveling because we're in lockdown, and then the vaccination in Brazil that wasn't like even happening at the time, but even afterwards, they could still not validate their vaccinations from the Brazilian institutions to move to Ireland. So for like not only that period in time, no one was traveling. And if no one is traveling, what happens? They'd stop to advertise with us, because they're like, what's the point of me advertising for a channel that will talk about moving abroad if no one is moving abroad? So we not only had this big loss, but we also had to be like, we lost all the clients we had, essentially 99% of the clients we had. So we had to figure something out very quickly. And what's interesting is, as the first thing that we did was, let's convert this event into something online first. And then we're like, maybe we're going to do this as an event that we're going to reach, different people and talk to different audiences. And we actually got a lot of support from the Irish community, a lot of really big names here, artists from like, I don't know, Codaline, musicians, the two twins from Happy Pair, big scuba divers, like professional scuba divers, professional fleets. A lot of people from the Irish community started to create content for us to really talk about like what's really Ireland, because a lot of people don't know what it is, right? They're like Guinness and maybe some music and a lot of green. And then you like see all of this that's happening. You're like, whoa, we have great food, we have great athletes, you have, great music, you have a lot of really good stuff. And that was so good. It actually reached over 10,000 people. And what we did was, we sold all the online tickets that we sold, 100% of the money that we generated, we donated to an institution in Brazil, a nonprofit, to help families who were struggling really, really hard with COVID. Because again, Brazil didn't really have a support from the government, unfortunately. So we had to really think about, how can we help who is in real need? Doesn't matter how much our business is being affected, how can we help the others? This was the best move we ever made, because this one connected us to the community, made us really think about what really matters. I think everyone thought about what really matters during COVID. And this was a really good, the first sign for us. And that gave us enough strength to really think about, okay, now that we're feeling good, what do we do about it? What can we do to help, other people? And we created an online course to help people prepare. And that was just so natural to us that we actually made enough money selling this that covered all the costs and all the expenses and that we had from this entire year. So it was insane. I can't explain, but I don't think we would ever get to anywhere close to this in sales if we didn't feel that same energy and, the joy of doing what we were doing. So it was, at the time it was a nightmare, but it was great to see the results afterwards.
Fantastic. That is inspiring. That's incredible. I mean, I know we were, as ActionCOACH, we were due to have our global conference in Rio, and then July, and of course everything was cancelled. And I know with our clients as well, the sky was kind of falling in. I know the laptop that I'm using now was thrown in the corner because I used to visit people, in person. Of course, we all had to learn about Zoom and Teams and everything else, and we had our virtual events then, which was so yeah, I can relate to it and to some of the pain, but that's incredible how you turned around and pivoted there. And so, of all the actions you've taken because of the pandemic, what are some that will remain part of your business?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So this course that we sold, I think we sold over 3,000 courses, which is essentially teaching people how to get a job remotely, how to work remotely, and everything that we could not do in person anymore. We created we crafted an educational material around that. So we were like, okay, there's a potential here because people are still remote and they're still looking for jobs. It's strangely, but maybe in a good sense, Ireland is still in a very low unemployment rate, even though US is actually going nuts. Something may happen here in the future, still not there. I think Ireland has a mix of a lot of potential because of the big companies that came in, a high, number of like talents and so on, and big companies. And I think it's still going to be an opportunity. We're going to see not going to see this unemployment rates going to grow. I think it's going to remain like around 5 or 6%, maybe even lower, which is great. and the other thing is, because we're going to get like other challenges now of, people who need to qualify to get jobs that are not for us, non-Europeans, we need the critical skills visa, which is essentially the working permit for jobs that are in high need for us. There's a high demand. So for example, a civil engineer or an architect and so on. So it's not only about tech. So we identified this as an opportunity for us to really help connect the Brazilians who are looking to move abroad because they're maybe looking for a change in their lives with the opportunities that are happening here. And this became like almost like a transition from that initial course of like helping out with the basics of, working remotely to now find skills that are, in high need and high demand here, so that they can come with a job, they can, help the workforce and really help the economy here.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. That's brilliant. Brilliant. Come on. And so another one, kind of broader question, what's your biggest learning since you've been a business owner?
I think obviously COVID was I think the biggest lesson. I would doubt like anyone would say anything different, but I think one thing that I've learned, and I think that was there were goods and bads to that. During the initial part of the pandemic, the very first month or second month, where I think it was still like people were like, this is not going to happen to Europe. This is not going to happen here. This is not going to happen to us. This is just like, some theory and conspiracy and whatever. Not everyone would be living in it. And the thing is, we had to take actions and make decisions that were hard for everyone, hard for us, hard for consumers, hard for clients. And you could see who was on your side and who was not on your side, who was really thinking about making money, or who was thinking about and being supportive and thinking about the bigger picture. And that was, to me, the biggest learning. I was like, I thought I could trust this brand or this company, and I know I can't. And this is really, really weird. And the other way around as well, we're like, oh my God, I'm getting a lot of support from these other companies because they understand what's going on. So I think that was a huge learning for me.
Fantastic. And have you any offers you want to include in the newsletter, Ed?
Yeah. So one thing that I'm doing a lot now, especially, it's mostly for people who are, if you're an entrepreneur, obviously looking to expand to different markets, maybe thinking about how to work multi-culturally with different markets and maybe tap into the Brazilian market. I'm happy to, work with you guys, help think about, ideas in how can eDublin help you, give a voice to brands. Brazilians are the second largest community of qualified, skilled employees, non-European employees in Ireland. We're actually a huge community. There are over 70,000 Brazilians living here. Wow. And it's an opportunity to really tap into that community. So we work with a lot of big companies here, and we're happy to, work with you guys as well.
Fantastic. That's great, Ed. Thanks for that. And I suppose, just to finish up, what is most inspiring to you today?
Well, that's another really good question. I think I've learned a lot through people who were very resilient throughout this period. And I think what inspires me, it's really people who are trying to do something that's for the greater good, not only for their own profits or their own business needs. And again, it's becoming more and more clear. We're getting more and more visibility on what's going on now. So I really feel inspired by the companies, the entrepreneurs who are thinking beyond themselves, beyond just like, helping their own revenue and so on. So it would be unfair to say one name or two names, but really it's about like the collective.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, I do a lot of work with clients on getting their vision right, and the vision has to be more than just making money,
For sure.
Be able to connect with the community. Well, listen, Ed, it's been great talking to you today. Very inspiring. Some great stuff there that you did. Some good stuff for our people to look at and learn and help maybe incorporate some of it into their own business. But that's great. Thanks again, and thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you so much.